Welcome to Fantastic Vision. Please subscribe us before you watch today's video. As the country with the most abundant resource reserves in the world, China has actually acted as an invisible bodyguard for the global semiconductor industry for a long time, providing a series of rare earths including gallium, germanium, indium, molybdenum, and rare earths, which are widely used in the semiconductor field. Of rare metals. The reserves of these metals are actually many times rarer than gold, but China has not set prices on the ground, but has been selling them at reasonable, or even lower prices, in order to maintain the development and prosperity of the global semiconductor industry, so as to realize scientific and technological progress and win-win. On top of the rare metals such as gallium and germanium provided by China, the United States, Japan and other countries further process them to manufacture various high-end semiconductor products and obtain huge profits. Therefore, it is not too much to say that China is the benefactor of the Japanese and American semiconductor industries. However, with the development and upgrading of China's industries, it gradually began to enter the high-tech field and began to compete with companies in the world and developed countries such as the United States and Japan. After the United States found that it could not win under the premise of fair competition, it began to use non-market means such as bans on sales and supply cuts to combat the development of China's technology. After discovering that China's rise could no longer be contained by the power of one country, it joined forces with Japan and the Netherlands to try to launch a tripartite chip agreement between the United States, Japan and the Netherlands, and jointly combat China's technology industry. As the current leader of the global technology industry, the United States sees the threat posed by the rise of China's technology industry, so it actively promotes the tripartite agreement to curb the development of China's technology industry. Japan and the Netherlands are limited in size and relatively safe in the field of science and technology. In fact, they have no direct competition with China. On the contrary, with the rise of China's high-tech industries such as chips, Japan and the Netherlands are actually beneficiaries. China is the world's largest importer of semiconductor equipment. According to statistics, China has become the world's largest producer of chips and an importer of semiconductor equipment. Of the $41 billion in semiconductor equipment China will import in 2022, Japan will be the biggest winner and beneficiary with $11.8 billion. In fact, after the US-Japan semiconductor war, Japan's semiconductor industry has been dismembered, and the middle and lower reaches have been completely defeated, leaving only a few areas, such as upstream semiconductor equipment and semiconductor materials lingering. China's chip industry focuses on solving actual needs, so it focuses on the development of mid- and downstream industries, which also happens to complement Japan's remaining semiconductor industry. Along with the development of China's semiconductor industry, Japan's semiconductor industry has gradually recovered and has once again gained opportunities for development. But I didn't expect that at the critical moment, Japan did not consider China's kindness, but followed the United States to participate in the tripartite agreement on chips, and will initiate export controls on 23 semiconductor fields. China imposes export controls on gallium and germanium. But they did not expect that China's counterattack would come so quickly. After the United States, Japan and the Netherlands respectively announced export controls, China also announced on the evening of July 3 that it will implement export controls on gallium, germanium metals and their compounds. Gallium and germanium are important metal materials in the semiconductor field, and are widely used in solar cells, semiconductor chips, optoelectronic materials, optical fiber communications, infrared optics and other fields. According to the export data released in 2022, the countries that export the most gallium metal produced in China are Japan, Germany and the Netherlands. The countries that export the most germanium metal are Japan, France, Germany and the United States. It can be seen that whether it is gallium or germanium, Japan is the largest importer and the most affected country. ASML will launch a special version of DUV lithography machine. What Japan did not expect was that the United States and the Netherlands began to rebel. First, ASML stated that it will produce special DUV lithography machine models for the Chinese market. These models can circumvent the relevant requirements of export controls and guarantee performance to the maximum extent. In fact, export control is not a panacea, especially for control measures made by organizations that do not understand lithography machines. Manufacturers like ASML can use various means to bypass those parameter requirements and continue to supply. Qualcomm announced that it will continue to supply. In the United States, after Qualcomm announced that it will continue to supply goods, it even sent Treasury Secretary Yellen to visit China in an attempt to ease relations. Why did Meiha turn? The export control of metal gallium and germanium is only one factor, and what is more important is that China still has a trump card, that is the market. American companies rely heavily on the Chinese market. According to the published financial report, 63.6% of Qualcomm's revenue comes from the Chinese market, 49.1% of Texas Instruments' revenue comes from the Chinese market, and 35% of Broadcom's revenue comes from the Chinese market. For other companies such as Lam Group, 31.4%, Yingyu Materials, 28.1%, Intel, 27.2%, AMD, 22.1%, and Nvidia, 21.4%. The Chinese market is also indispensable. Following the United States' actions against Chinese chips will severely damage the Japanese industry. At this time, Japan has also become the most embarrassing party. In fact, in terms of industrial volume, Japan is not qualified to participate in the competition of the Sino-US semiconductor industry, especially under the pressure of the US-Japan Semiconductor Agreement. The Japanese semiconductor industry has actually been eating its own money over the years. Just like following US on China chip export curbs would hit Japan's industry hard, published by the Japan Times, Japan, as a weaker party, should take advantage of both China and the United States and rely on the strong. Following the United States will only cause the Japanese semiconductor industry to suffer heavy losses.